Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing and Lily. So, as you can tell by the topic today, we're going to be responding to some people's need to always deflect when they discuss pound for pound, right? When a pound for pound list doesn't look like them, they need to then, of course, deflect towards people that don't look like them and try to use these people as the antithesis for the reason why their people are not getting highlighted, right? Basically doing the exact same thing they're complaining about other people doing. Whereas boxing obviously is not so black and white. You can make it black and white, but the reality is there's a lot of gray in boxing, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, the gray, right? Whether you agree with Ring Magazine's pound for pound list or not, nobody is ever going to be completely happy with every pound for pound list that they see. Never. Whether it's some people being shuffled from certain positions, whether it's David Benavidez being on a pound for pound list, I fucking can't fathom how anybody who is a sports media boxing pundit or writer or media member could somehow have David Benavidez in their top 10. David Benavidez, since 2023, obviously has had some big fights, beating Caleb Plant, the same Caleb Plant that Canelo Alvarez had already knocked out in unification. David Benavidez fought him for no title after he got knocked out by Canelo. A fight that should have happened for unification before Canelo. And then David probably would have got his Canelo Alvarez fight. Then he fought Demetrius Andrade, very good opponent, solid, even though, to be fair, Andrade had never beaten or fought a world champion in his career. And he was a two-weight world champion trying to become a three-weight world champion. And he'd never beat a champion. Not a past champion, not a current champion, not a future champion. So there was no surprise that he ended up getting beat by David Benavidez, right? Then he fought, of course, Vosdick, but this is the same Vosdick who at one time was a world champion in light heavyweight, but had been knocked out and destroyed and sent into retirement by Artur Beterbiev. Took 4 years out of the game, only came back because of the Ukraine-Russian war and the fact that financially he was a little in a compromised position because of that and had to come back because of money. Hadn't fought any top 10 level competition, really wasn't a top 10 light heavyweight when David fought him. Then you fought David Morrell, a very good up-and-coming fighter, a top 10, 168-pound fighter. A top 10, 168-pound fighter. Not a top 10 light heavyweight. This is a guy who's never beat a top 10 light heavyweight. To be fair, he'd never beaten a top 10, 168-pound fighter. Had less than 15 professional fights. And really, based on that, which is far better than everything he's done previous, because previous, his fucking career was a bag of shit with one good win against Durrell and a fight against an old shot, David Lemieux, who came up in weight. Outside of that, fucking there's not much to his resume. So putting him on a pound-for-pound list over, say, a guy like Zurdo, who's currently a unified cruiserweight world champion and obviously was a 168-pound champion, moved up and got beat by Dmitry Bivol, a pound-for-pound fighter at 175. So if you compare Zurdo to David Benavidez, it's not even comparable. One fighter actually has done something in the sport. Another hasn't done anything, right? So you're always going to find these kind of situations where you have to scratch your head and wonder how somebody actually got onto a pound-for-pound list. But as far as the rest of the names, I have no problem with any of them being on the list. If you wanted Tank Davis, Shakur Stevens, Junto Nakatani, there's, as I always say, about 15 fighters who potentially could be in the top 10. And if you have any mix of those 15, you're not really wrong. I just don't think David Benavidez is in that top 15. But let me know what you think. If you think David Benavidez deserves to be on a pound-for-pound list. Because, I mean, I can't imagine taking Tank Davis off of a fucking list, put David Benavidez on. I cannot fathom how any boxing media could really wrap their head around that. But outside of that, I don't really have an issue with the magazine. Andrade beat Calque, WBA 154-pound champion. Calque was a regular WBA champion. That ain't a fucking champion. That ain't a champion. Calque was never a legitimate world champion at 154 pounds. Never. If you want to count baby belts, okay, so he's a baby belt. So Golovkin broke Bernard Hopkins' middleweight defense record as well. Tank Davis is a legitimate three-way world champion. I mean, we got to be consistent. If we're not being consistent, then what the fuck are we being? Right? We can't move the goalpost just so we can, massage a fighter that we like. Obviously, you like David Benavidez, so you're trying to find a way to massage him being into the pound-for-pound top 10 list. I mean, let's be real. There's nobody legitimately that really believes David Benavidez belongs on the pound-for-pound list. Most of these pundits are doing it because right now in America, a lot of these media sources are really pushing David Benavidez as one of the top faces of boxing, as a potential pound-for-pound fighter, and a pay-per-view star. Yet none of that is reality. You can wish it, you can fucking write about it, you can push it, but come on. They were trying to compare Benavidez to Bivol, and there's no fucking comparison. None. What Bivol has done is probably something that Benavidez will never do. But we'll find out, because apparently Benavidez' team sent an offer to Bivol. I love that. I love that the PBC sent a fucking offer to Bivol. Was it $10 million? Because if it wasn't $10 million, then why would they even look at it? Because literally in the last two fights with Better BF in Saudi Arabia, they made $10 million. And the third fight, they're going to make $10 million. So why would you take any offer less than that? But okay, it is what it is. But let's get to the topic of conversation, because obviously today we're not talking about David Benavidez. We're talking about Shakur Stevenson and Junto Nakatani, two fighters I believe deserve to be on the pound-for-pound list. But ironically enough, somebody felt that Junto shouldn't be on the pound-for-pound list. Didn't have a problem with David Benavidez being on the list, but didn't think that Junto should be on the list. And this is one of the problems when you look at American YouTube channels. It's that American-centric idea that if it's not American, it's shit. These are the same people that consistently go, nobody watches those divisions. Nobody watches those divisions. Well, if it was left up to Americans, there'd literally be fucking 4 divisions in boxing. 135, 140, 147, and 154. And those would be the only fucking 4 divisions in boxing. Every other division would not fucking matter, would not fucking exist, because Americans don't pay attention to those divisions either. They don't pay attention to the heavyweights. They don't pay attention to anything under 126. They don't pay attention to middleweight, 168, light heavyweight. They don't pay attention to anything. So if we're going to use Americans as the guide to what we should focus on in boxing, that's our first fucking mistake, right? But okay, so today we're going to look at Shakur Stevenson's career. Shakur has been moved very well, the way Top Rank consistently moves people, right? Junto, similarly, has been moved very well. Obviously, he's a smaller weight fighter and has been, oh my God, work people complaining about tables and shit. Sean, one time is back. Nobody cares. We know this is the typical PBC thing. You're going to massage this old fighter that nobody's cared about fucking in 5 years so you could put him into a Tim Tszyu pay-per-view fight. That fight, nobody wanted to see it when the PBC tried to make it before. Even less people want to see it right now. I saw somebody say they would like to see Keith Thurman fight Errol Spence. That, for me, would be a far more intriguing matchup. Both guys basically shot, both old, both guys that ducked a perfect opportunity to fight each other back in the day. Now they could fight, and the winner of that could fight Tim Tszyu. That might be more interesting. If I was the PBC, I'd probably push for that. because the Tim Tszyu Keith Thurman pay-per-view ain't going to move a needle. But if you have Thurman face Spence, that will move a needle. And then the winner of that against Tim Tszyu, now we're actually talking about something a little more significant. Errol Spence, Keith makes perfect sense and still has intrigue. Yeah. I mean, it's not like one guy is primed and doing great and the other guy's shot. They're both basically fucking old shot and have thrown away their careers. So, you got that name recognition, Spence and Thurman. Obviously, there was a huge rivalry between them back in the day. Spence basically said he wasn't going to give Keith Thurman a payday. You remember that? People didn't mind when Errol Spence said he wasn't going to give Keith Thurman a payday. But I wonder why so many people are upset that Canelo Alvarez says he's not going to give David Benavidez a payday. What's the difference? Oh, sorry, I know the difference. Some fighters are PBC, some fighters aren't. And if you're pro PBC, then your message is never consistent. Spence versus Tim Tszyu is better. Jay, how is Spence versus Tszyu better? Spence hasn't fought in over 2 years. His last performance, he got his ass beat all over the fucking ring. You have Spence fight Thurman. That fight's going to sell more in the American market with these, Americans who only know American fighters. It's just a fight that will do better. You'll put that on pay-per-view. You probably could do 350, maybe push towards 500, maybe, and then have the winner fight Tim Tszyu. All three are cooked. That's true. That's why you might as well put them together, man, and make stew, because there's nothing legitimate about fucking either one of them, all three. But if you put them together, you could, you could sell it. It's marketable. Fighters don't have to be great. Fighters just have to be at the same level, right? I mean, when we saw Arturo Gatti fight, what's his face, the Friday Night Fights guy, because they were on the same level, you ended up getting 3 great fights out of them, which became historic. But you wouldn't have wanted to see either one of those guys really fight an elite fighter. Like when Gatti fought Floyd Mayweather, everybody knew that was a terrible fight and should never have been made. And people praise how good Floyd looked. He looked good against what? A Friday Night Fight fighter. Fucking hooray, right? That fight should never have happened. But they use Gatti and his name recognition to help build up Floyd. Yeah, Mickey Ward. I watched Mickey Ward for years before he got the Gatti fight, and he was never a great fighter. One-handed, one-dimensional. It is what it is. Work drama is ridiculous. Some things you just shouldn't write in work emails for everyone to see, because you look like a moaning fucking crybaby when you do that. And then management also sees the negativity and they're going to respond to it, right? You're Canadian, laugh out loud. You don't rate Gatti. It's not that I don't like Gatti, but no, I don't rate Gatti. Gatti shouldn't be Hall of Famer. He was never a Hall of Famer. He was never an elite fighter. Was he fun? Was he exciting? Was he great drama and great TV? He was all of those things. See, that's the difference between some boxing fans that act like a boring skilled fighter who was a great amateur but is a boring pro, like a Laura or a fucking Rigo or any of those Cuban fucking boxers. You hate them because of their color. No, we don't hate them. We just know that they don't sell. They don't move the metrics because stylistically they're great, super skilled, but nobody fucking wants to watch them fight, right? And that's every sport in the world. In the NBA, you want to see dunks, you want to see high scoring, you want to see athletic, exciting plays. In football, you want to see breakout runs, you want to see fucking great passes in the end zone, diving catches, right? In every sport, you want to see points on the board. You want to see a great offense. Sure, great defenses win. But nobody wanted to watch fucking the New Jersey Devils back in the day with their fucking neutral trap go on and win fucking NHL Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup in the boringest fucking hockey that ever has been around. Nobody. Even though Brodeur, great. I think Gaddy had great skills, actually, in his young days. His eyes just swole so easy. Great skills? He had skills. Great? That might be fucking an exaggeration. You look at a guy like Barrera. Barrera, similar to Gaddy, was pushed all over those Tuesday, Friday night fights on TV. Got to see, was it ESPN, whoever, wherever I watched those fights. And he was a come forward, exciting fighter until he got beat. And then he really developed into a smart, skilled fighter. Gaddy was never Barrera or Morales. All three super exciting fighters, but those two really had far more skill than he had. He had heart. Fucking right. That's why people loved him, right? That's why I say it doesn't matter if you lose. If you go out and put great fights out, show great heart, people are going to love you. You're going to make great money in the sport. You're going to be fucking on TV all the time. If you're skilled but have no heart, something some people are saying about Shakur Stevenson, just to relate it back to today's conversation, people aren't going to love you, right? You could say Devin Haney showed heart against Lomachenko and against Ryan Garcia specifically. So you got to give a guy praise for heart, because boxing is all about heart. Some guys are obviously super skilled. Some guys are hard punchers. Some guys are super fast. Some guys just have genetics behind them, but they're not necessarily great fighters because they don't have that intrinsic quality that makes you great. But let's get to it. Shakur's style is awful. Yes, sometimes it's not fun to watch. That's true. So, not to name names, Shakur. I ain't hating Shakur. I think Shakur is a very entertaining guy, a lot of personality. But unfortunately, when he steps in the ring, he just reverts back to being a really safe fighter. And that style isn't going to make you a star. It's going to be hard for you to really become a pay-per-view star doing that. Maybe he will, but he's going to need the opponents to do it, right? Because stylistically, he's no Tank Davis. But this is a pound for pound list by the usual suspects. And surprisingly, this is a quality pound for pound list. Obviously, you could be critical of where some people are ranked and be petty, like many of these channels are petty. But I'm not going to be petty, because what this list tells me is everything I know. You have 4 Black Americans on this list, because that's the only 4 you could justifiably put on the pound for pound top 10 list. Currently, there's only 4 guys who even come close to being at that point of their careers. You have Bud Crawford, number 1, because of course a Black American fighter has to be number 1, or the world is just not fucking at peace. And that's why this pound for pound looks the way it is. You can maneuver and mix the rest of the guys on the list. That don't matter. That's superfluous. Because in truth, we know the guy that made this list don't fucking care about Usyk, Bivol, Canelo, Anui, Bam, or fucking Better BF. And he'd be far more happy to take all of them off the list and put somebody else that looked more like him on the list. But for the list in itself, quality list. If I saw a pound for pound list like this and I didn't know who it was from, I would go, yeah, all the names that should be on the list are on the list. Sure, Zerto's not on the list. Sure, Junto's not on the list. Sure, Lomachenko's not on the list. Sure, Kenshiro Taraji's not on the list. But as I said, there's 15 fighters you could potentially put in the top 10. You can't have 15 fighters in 10 spots. So you're always going to have a situation where some fighters just won't be on certain people's lists for whatever reason that may be. In this case, it's an ignorant American that really doesn't want to give anyone that fights outside of the US any attention at all. But let's look through. Shakur is a boring compared to Zepeda and still put up more numbers on ESPN and ticket sales. Yeah, he's a far more entertaining personality, right? But stylistically in the ring, he's not nearly as entertaining. Shakur is fast as fuck, though. Always a good time when Newton's live. Try to have it as many times as possible. Bud isn't active enough to be number one. And that was what I pointed out as well, right? In a video I made today, I didn't post it. So stay tuned to that. It'll be posted later on today. Bud Crawford has consistently been fighting once a year for the last 4 or 5 years, right? It's hard to be above guys like Bivol, Inoue, and Usyk when you're 37 years old and you're so inactive, and other fighters are doing far more in the ring day to day than you are, just more active. Listen to John's rankings yesterday. Hawker shared it on Discord. Oh, yeah. Sean, what was your Tank versus Lamont final scorecard? I had Lamont winning, but I didn't. I just sort of counted the rounds on my fingers. And I'm not a math teacher, so I felt Lamont won. I wasn't surprised it ended in a draw, because a draw tells you that Tank Davis lost. And they didn't want him to lose, so they gave him a draw, right? Basically, that's what happened. And all the other bullshit that happened just solidifies that even more. But I'm happy that they're getting close to finalizing the rematch, because really that's what should happen. They should have a rematch. That would be fair. But we look at this list. I can't complain about Bud Crawford being number one. He's one of the most accomplished fighters in boxing. Usyk being number two, also one of the most accomplished fighters in boxing. A guy who's fighting dudes 50 and 60 pounds heavier than him, something no other fighter on this list is ever going to do. Even if Bud Crawford goes up 14 pounds to fight Canelo Alvarez, he's literally not fighting a guy 50 or 60 pounds bigger than him. Bivol beating Zurdo, beating Canelo, beating Beterbiev. He's doing what your favorite fighter isn't doing. And I'm not a huge Bivol fan. I wanted Beterbiev to win in the rematch. I felt Bivol did win, but it was close, competitive. I felt that Beterbiev just didn't close with enough energy, and he didn't win that. The first fight, I did feel he won. Canelo, one of the most accomplished fighters in boxing, best resume in the sport. A future Hall of Famer, no doubt, as all four of those fighters are, right? Without a doubt, right? Then you get to Inoue. The top five on this list is what I've consistently said. If you do a pound-for-pound list and you don't have Bud Crawford, Usyk, Bivol, Canelo, and fucking Inoue in your top five, there's probably something wrong with you as an individual, because you're looking for reasons to not fucking praise fighters who are doing significant things in the sport. All five of them undisputed. 3 of them two-weight undisputed. 1, the best resume in boxing. The other one fucking literally beat an undisputed 168-pound fighter, undisputed 175-pound fighter, and a unified cruiserweight. And then after that, the next 5 is kind of the place where you can mix and match. Obviously, I don't have a problem with Devin Haney being on this list, but based on his previous performances, I don't think he should be in front of Beterbiev. I don't think he should be in front of Tank. I don't think he should be in front of Bam, right? If you want to put him under those 3 fighters, I think that's fine. Having him above, that's because John loves Devin Haney. Devin Haney lost to Lomachenko, looked great against Prograis, looked vulnerable against a Ryan fucking Garcia. We can shit on Tank Davis for looking fucking vulnerable against Lamont Roach. But he did not look fucking as vulnerable as Devin Haney did. He didn't get dropped by the same punch time after time after time, hurt every time he got touched by that punch. Devin Haney looked vulnerable. And at this point, when people question his ability to bounce back as an elite fighter, there's truth to it. That's why I don't think he should be higher on the list. Not until he gets in the ring and we see that that vulnerability is not a real issue. Because at this point, I would not be surprised to see him fucking get dropped with the first left hand that Ramirez hits him with. Tank Davis, you don't think Tank is vulnerable. With him, we just thought unfocused. Bam has been one of the most dominant fighters in boxing. How do you not have Bam ranked above Devin Haney? I know Devin Haney was undisputed. He's not anymore. I know that he was a champion at 140 pounds. He's not anymore. Bam was a unified champion. He's currently a two-weight world champion. He's looked fucking unbelievable against the best competition he's faced. And when you look at guys like Estrada, Rungvisai, Quadras, and Sonny Edwards, those guys match up to everybody that fucking Devin Haney's fought, except probably Lomachenko. And most people feel Devin Haney lost to Lomachenko, right? And all those guys are better than fucking Ryan Garcia, without a doubt. Then, of course, Better Biev had a 100% KO ratio. Much like Tank Davis, he was destroying every opponent in front of him. The difference is he was actually fighting world champions and elite fighters in his division, unlike Tank. So to have him below Tank Davis, that don't make sense, because he's done something Tank Davis has never done: become undisputed. Like, John will put Devin Haney on this position and talk about, well, he deserves to be above these fighters because he's undisputed. Bam wasn't, Tank wasn't, Shakur wasn't, but Better Biev was. Oh, Better Biev lost. Better Biev lost in a very close, controversial fight. And that's not the only good win Better Biev had on his resume against Bivol, right? He has a lot of good wins, quality unification fights. He's a monster. John has Bud over Usyk because he became undisputed sooner than Usyk, which is the stupidest fucking thing ever. I guess I should put B-Hop at number one on my pound for pound list because he was the first guy to become undisputed in the modern era. You know, what does that have to do with anything? Bud Crawford has never defended an undisputed title in his fucking life. So we never had an opportunity for him to potentially get beat in those situations. Canelo over Inoue is a joke. I agree. At this point, I don't think you could put Canelo at his present position above Inoue. But that's John. He's trying to downplay Inoue. The fact he's got Inoue ranked over Devin Haney, that's some progress, because probably in his next pay-per-view or his next list, Devin Haney is going to be number 3. It's not even that bad list as I would expect. No, as I said, it's a very solid list. I have no complaints whatsoever about the list. You can be petty, talk about Inoue over Canelo, talk about Better Biev over Tank Davis and over fucking Devin Haney, Bam over Devin Haney based on the form he's in right now. Bam didn't just get dropped after left hand after left hand after left hand after left hand. He got dropped by Estrada, a future Hall of Famer, unlike Ryan Garcia, got up and then destroyed him and never got touched by another punch that looked like he was going to drop him again. And Estrada is levels above a Ryan Garcia as far as accomplishments and just being a future great. But let's get to the real potatoes of this situation. I ain't picking one over the other. I'm just pointing out the facts. Both of these fighters currently are 27 years old. At this point, I think Ryan is better than Estrada. Oh, J.A., fucking get real. This was the same Ryan that looked like fucking garbage against that fucking Mexican dude who just got a victory recently. Like, looked terrible. Had the worst fucking Philly shelf anybody's seen. Literally turning his back to the fighter. Got lucky that he landed a left hand and knocked the guy out. He looked like fucking garbage. But Junto, Shakur, both 27. Junto currently 30-0, 23 knockouts. Who would you rather fight right now, pound for pound? Who would I rather fight? Oh my God, come on. That's a stupid fucking argument. Shakur Stevenson, 23-0 with 11 KOs. Obviously, we know which of these two fighters is the more exciting fighter. Junto has a great knockout percentage, has been in fine form, fucking literally putting out knockouts of the year. Literally, right? You know, ESPN highlight knockouts he's been putting out. Knockouts that fucking everybody's watched. If you're a boxing fan, I saw people in John's video go, I don't even know who Junto fought. then you're a fucking casual, an idiot, or all the above. Because literally, some of his knockouts have been fucking highlighted on ESPN because of the quality of the knockouts. Inui-esque knockouts, Tank Davis type of knockouts, Deontay Wilder type of knockouts, literal one-punch knockouts that had dudes quivering in a puddle on the fucking canvas. Duarte, there you go. He's on a decent run. Yeah, getting that win afterwards was a good win for him. Philly shell, more like a silly shell. Is that pro Grace fight still going to not to happen? I don't know what's going to happen with pro Grace. Junto had wins over 2 current world champions. Do you think Turkey is trying to make only one belt, and if he will be successful? I don't know if he is or he isn't. I know I said I hope that he does. I would like it if he just bought those companies and then fucking threw them in the garbage, and then we could walk away from them, because I feel that's the only way you could really do it, if you bought them, took control, and then just buried the belts or conglomerated them all together. But, it is one thing. John is a moron, thinks Haney has accomplished way more than Junto by beating Cambosis for all the belts. Well, exactly. And then he uses the whole argument that people say about Tank Davis never unifying. But I guarantee you, Junto Nakatani is going to be in a unification fight before he's 30 years old. He's still got 3 years to do what Tank Davis hasn't done yet. And I guarantee you, this year, he's going to be in a unification fight. So he's going to be a unified champion at 27 years old. Tank Davis is current 30. And we pray to all that is holy that this year we just might get a Tank Davis unification fight. I heard you finally unblock Hawker. I unblocked him on one thing, and then I unblocked him on another recently, but I don't know if he still can get in or not. I'm not sure, because the one thing is really hard, so I don't know. That sometimes they make stuff so difficult, to cancel fucking things you buy, like subscribe to something, you can't fucking find out how you cancel it. You block someone, you figure if it's easy to block them, it should be easy to unblock them, but it's not always the case. But that's why I said anyone who's smarter on computer technology, they could send me a how-to thing, and obviously I'd be happy to unblock him. This is the problem when people fucking steal other people's personalities online. It's a shitty thing to do, because then you just create this kind of bullshit. And I'm not a guy with a heavy hand at blocking people either, but Nah, Hawker, not a troll. Hawker is a troll. Whatever, JA. Some people would say you're a troll. But let's get to these 2 resumes. Like, you would have to say right now, Junto Nakatani has been on a far bigger run than Shakur Stevens has. He's been putting out sensational performances. Shakur Stevenson has been putting out heavily criticized performances, criticized by his own people, right? The people that are more critical of Shakur than anyone are Black American boxing fans, primarily Tank Davis fans, right? So the reality is this dude is getting hated on left, right, and center, whether it's his connection to Bud Crawford, whether it's his connection to Top Rank, even though he's no longer with Top Rank, whatever the situation may be. Junto is just continuing to fucking roll. And when I say roll, I mean literally roll over motherfuckers. But let's go through it. So here's Junto's career against world champions. He beat Yabuki early on in his career. Yabuki has since went on to beat a guy who's a pound-for-pound fighter in Kenshiro, and currently is a world champion. So after losing to Junto, beating Kenshiro, 2 guys that easily could be pound-for-pound fighters, he's still currently a world champion. Went on to once again become a world champion for the 2nd time. Angel Acosta, hard punching, Puerto Rican, obviously at 112 pounds, I think it was, or was it 108? He was a sensational knockout machine. When he grew out of that weight, he's not been nearly as dominant. But obviously, unfortunately for him, he ran into Junto early in his career and fucking got rolled over. Then, of course, he faced Shigo Yuri Akui, who is going to be fighting this weekend or this week as well. Currently a world champion. So right there, out of these four fighters that I have in the first slide, two of them are current world champions. Fine, they both lost to Junto early on in their in his career, not early in their careers, but both of them have since went on to become world champions since losing to Junto. And then, of course, Milin Melindo, who is still active, but obviously is far past his best. Obviously, old in the tooth now. Obviously, was a unified champion and I think a two-time world champion. Then we get to the next three fighters that have been world champions because he's fought 7 world champions in his career, right? 7. 27 years old, 7 world champions. Obviously, this guy here, sorry, I cut his name off. Well, I don't know why I can't remember what his name is. He recently just fought Ioka, right? And most people that watched that fight felt that he beat Ioka, right? One of his first major losses in his career was to Roman Gonzalez back in the day as well. And since then, he's went on to become a champion. Obviously, should have been a champion by beating Ioka. Got screwed in Japan on that card. Then ended up facing Junto Nakatani. Gave Junto a fucking great fight, right? Then, of course, Junto faced Alexandra Santiago to become a 3-weight world champion. Santiago was literally coming off of the best win of his career by beating Nonito Donaire, a future Hall of Famer. Of course, Junto went out there and fucking destroyed him in a sensational knockout. Do I even have that? Let's see if I can show it on my phone and see how that works. I guess I could show here, but I'm not sure how these things work. You know, fucking, they're going to block me for showing a YouTube video, even though it's on YouTube. Junto Nakatani, stoppage of Santiago. Let's see if I can share this here. Screen share. Oh, I will stop that one and I will do another one. There we go. Let's see this sensational knockout by Junto against Santiago, who obviously had beaten Donaire to become WBC 118-pound champion after Inoue lost his title. Letting his hands go. Oh, nice body shot. Santiago took that well. I think I would have barfed all over his shoes. Oh, there we go. Destructive. Santiago's thinking, fucking Christ, man. This shit ain't worth the effort. And then let's do Maloney. Junto Nakatani, stoppage of Maloney. Woo, timber. Man, if you knew what was coming, you wouldn't fucking be getting back in the ring, buddy. Here we go. That was Manny Pacquiao versus Ricky Hatton. That fucking knockout. Fucking flattened. Laid out. Oh. Also, Pacquiao versus Marquez. That shot was also kind of similar to Garcia knocking out Amir Khan, not even looking, right? Will you answer my last comment about Turkey? Thanks. Turkey? What comment on Turkey? Do you think Turkey? I did answer. You talked about the belts, and I said, I don't know what he's doing, but I early on hoped that he would get rid of the belts. But I don't know what he's doing. Who knows? We've seen this play out with Al Heyman and now with Turkey, so who knows really what's going on? He still is working with the other sanctioning bodies, so who knows? Oh, also Martinez, Paul Williams, yeah, true. Maloney still sleeping. Oh my God, that dude was fucking laid out hard. But let's keep moving. Add to the stage. So there we are. So there's Andrew Maloney and Alessandro Santiago, all champions, right? So that's 7 world champions that Junto Nakatani has beaten. But I don't even know who he beat. Fucking Santiago beat fucking Donaire. The other kid, I can't remember his name. I don't know why I can't remember. Fought Roman Gonzalez, fought fucking Ioka for a world title. I think he fought Estrada as well. Like literally, he fought every elite fighter in those lower divisions. Maloney, you don't know the Maloney brothers? Really? And then 2 world champions. Of course, they're Japanese, so I wouldn't expect Americans to know those guys. Do you think Inui has more fans in the UK than America? He fought in the UK once. I would say he must have more fans in America because there's a huge Japanese population in the States. And obviously the States is way bigger than the UK. I'm in Britain and not many people know about Inui. Most British fans only care about UK fighters. Yeah, see, that's also the problem. I mean, that kind of concept of being a boxing fan, but yet only care about fighters from your neck of the woods. If I was to do that, I would not watch boxing. If all I could watch was Canadian fighters, I quit. No more. But let's look at Shakur Stevenson because he's so much better. He's fought so many big names, so many guys that are way better than anybody that Junto Nakatani has fought. I mean, you can't even compare Junto Nakatani to the great Shakur Stevenson and the domination he's had in his career, winning 2 vacant titles and then 2 legitimate titles. Literally, that's the span of his career, right? Junto was beating champions to win titles, not winning vacant titles, even though he may have won a vacant title in there as well. I think he won the vacant title at 115 pounds for the WBO because his countryman, which would have been a great name on his resume, Ioka, blatantly fucking ducked him. Son. But let's move forward. Where are we? You claim to like Shakur, but you're still shit on him in order to defend Junto. I'm shitting on him. I'm being fucking honest. Just like I talk about all ESPN fighters getting a fucking leg up by being on ESPN, by going the WBO route, right? If you can't be honest about what ESPN does and how their fighters get benefited because being with ESPN, then you're fucking lying. Like when people talk about, oh, ESPN didn't help fucking Bud Crawford or Shakur Stevens. They hate those fighters because they're racist. Yet neither one of those fighters' careers would be where they were if not for Top Rank. Floyd, Pacquiao, De La Hoya, fucking the same. Right? Like, I don't understand this mentality. I'm being honest. I ain't hating on Shakur. I said he's got a great personality. He fucking attracts people because he's fucking very confident and not afraid to fucking speak his truth. But the problem is once he steps in the ring, he reverts to safety first. So you're not really winning fans over. And your last few performances have been really disappointing. Disappointing. That's not a lie. And it's not me hating on Shakur to say that. Everybody's fucking saying that. That's just the truth. Um, yeah, only hardcores know Inui. I just said that. Speak the truth is shit on him. That's it, right? I can't tell you the truth because I'm shitting on him. I'm just pointing out the truth. Junto's fought 7 world champions. Shakur's fought 3. They're both 27 years old. Shakur, coming out of the Olympics, was signed to a major promoter, worked into a fucking position to win a vacant 126-pound title, moved up to 130, was given fucking an opportunity to fight Jamal Herring for his second world title, even though Jamal should have probably got an opportunity to unify against Valdez. But because his promotional company wasn't keen, they pushed Shakur right in there. He won it, and then Shakur got the Valdez fight. Then he moved up to the 135 pounds, got a vacant WBC title. That's me hating? Or is that me being factual and fucking completely honest on what happened in his career? I'm not judging. I'm not saying, oh, fuck, he's garbage. Look, he didn't even win real titles. I say that about fucking Chris Shields. But yeah, John will say he's speaking truth on GGG. Doesn't mean he's not shitting on him. But John doesn't speak truth on fucking GGG. He lies about fucking who he beat. He said he didn't fight any champions. He didn't unify titles. He fucking lies, right? You're going to shit on Golovkin, but then dick ride Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder, who didn't even accomplish what Golovkin did, right? Like all Ira said, if you're going to fucking shit on Golovkin, you should shit on Wilder too. Both great knockout punchers, but both haven't fought enough big name opponents, right? And then you look at Tank Davis, who's exactly the same as those two, right? All people want to do is the same thing we wanted all of them to do. We wanted Golovkin to fight all the middleweight champions. They ducked him. Wilder ducked all the other champions. Tank Davis ducked all the other champions. But we're going to shit on Golovkin, who we know blatantly was ducked. John literally made videos telling Sergio Martinez, Miguel Cotto, and Canelo Alvarez to duck Golovkin. Because why are you going to fight him? He's not a big name. He's not a pay-per-view draw. You're not going to make big money fighting him. You might as well just not even bother fighting him and fight each other. Right? But then you say, oh, Canelo Alvarez doesn't need to fight Andrade or fucking David Benavidez. He's making just as much money fighting other guys. Why does he need to fight them? But that's a critical thing, right? This is the thing. These dudes are liars, dishonest. They twist fucking the narrative when it suits them, when it's a certain shade of fucking black, when it's a certain shade of pink, then their mentality is different. Haters are delusional. Haters love to hate. That's the truth, especially in this boxing world. Like today, this video is not to hate on Shakur. I said I think Shakur belongs on the fucking pound for pound list. But I'm just addressing this hate and criticism towards Junto to try to act as if somehow Shakur Stevens has done so much more and is so much more deserving than Junto. Is he more deserving? Here's the 3 champions he fought. He beat Jamal Herring as a champion. He beat Oscar Valdez as a champion. Robson Consecao became a champion afterwards in a terrible fucking robbery of Oshaki Foster, but nonetheless still went on to become a world champion after Shakur Stevenson beat him. These are the only world champions that Shakur Stevens fought. All at 130 pounds. At 126, no. At 135, no. It's not hate, to be honest. It just is what it is. If you feel Shakur deserves to be above Junto, that's your prerogative. I just think when I praise Shakur, the fact that he unified is something significant. Junto hasn't unified. I've been calling for Junto to unify. But outside of the unification, they're both 3-weight world champions. How is one 3-weight world champion better than another one? You better have more quality wins. Does Shakur, in your opinion, you guys let me know in the comment section below, does Shakur have more quality wins than Junto Nakatani? Because right now, not one of the fucking 3 faces you see here is currently a world champion. Junto, in truth, 3 of those fighters he fought should be world champions now. Maloney got robbed in that bantamweight fight, but 2 are current world champions, and 1 could become a unified world champion if he beats Ken Shiro tomorrow, which would be a fucking huge, monumental win for him. Golovkin's resume destroys Wilder's. It does. He unified titles. Wilder never did. He unified titles 2 different occasions as a champion. He became a champion on 2 occasions. Wilder never became a champion again. At least Tank Davis became a champion again, right? He lost his title because he was too fat, came back, won it again, even though it was fucking terrible. He won the regular title, but was elevated to super champion, and then dropped that title, came back down to beat fucking Santa Cruz in a pay-per-view just to win back the title, only to drop it again and then move up in weight, won a regular title, and was elevated at that weight. So really, to win those titles, he beat 2 champions for 4 belts. Has he done that much more than Junto Nakatani? I think he's faced more world champions, but he's also 3 years older. How many more world champions do you think Junto Nakatani is going to have on his resume over the next 3 years? The only solid wins on Wilder's resume are the Ortiz fights. The first Tavern fight was solid. The first one, obviously not the rematch. That was a fucking... didn't make any sense. There was no point doing that fight. Stavern was a fat slob, didn't earn a fucking rematch. It was just a typical PBC bullshit fight. But, you know, it is what it is. But the 2 Ortiz fights, obviously quality. I think there was one other fight in there that ranks pretty good. Washington. Did he fight Washington? Somebody else? And then obviously Stavern. So, you know, 4 good wins. I ain't hating on Wilder, but he could have fought Klitschko. He could have fought Klitschko. He could have fought AJ. He could have fought fucking Parker. He could have fought the in-house heavyweight fighter. I walk like a god, right? You know, he could have done so much more in the sport of boxing. Fought Dillian White, fought Chisora, fought fucking Pulev, fought Povetkin. Like, it's because his team and the way they maneuvered him that he didn't fight more great names. The same way that Tank Davis hasn't fought more great names. But let's move forward. Like I say, Jamal Herring was a good win. He'd already been knocked out previously before facing, obviously, Shakur. Valdez was a good fighter, right? But I mean, this was a guy who had one great win, knocking out a fighter who was a champion, and that was the best win of his career, and he's never done anything similar afterwards. Kansakau is a good fighter, but he could never be a winner until judges robbed Oshaki Foster to give him a title. We will see what both Junto and Shakur do moving forward, because right now Junto's in a division where there's 3 Japanese champions that he could unify against. There's also Bam Rodriguez in the division below him, who hopefully will come up in weight to challenge him in what would be a fucking huge fight, right? And I would love to see people try to hate on Bam and Junto when that fight gets made, but they will. And then potentially we could see him move up to challenge Inoue, an undisputed 122-pound, pound-for-pound top 5 fighter in boxing today. How are you going to criticize that? The biggest fight in Japanese boxing history. It's iconic, that fight. Iconic. Shakur could fight Tank Davis. That fight is not iconic to the extent that Inoue versus Junto is. Sure, it's a big fight. And in America, it would do bigger numbers. But I don't think it's going to do bigger numbers than fucking Junto and Inoue is going to do in Japan. Not even fucking close. But that's the thing, right? When you start judging people in this harsh criticism, you got to be honest about what you're looking at, right? And really be fair. The problem with people shitting on Junto is they're just not fair. It's the same people that shit on Golovkin, shit on Loma, shit on fucking Roman Gonzalez. It's constantly saying people shit on Pacquiao. Like, some people just don't look like them. And because of that, they never can really be accepted as great. But that's the problem. Then we get to the man who really deserves to be on the pound for pound list over Junto Nakatani and Shakur Stevenson. Probably over Tank Davis. Fucking for sure over fucking David Benavidez. Like that shit ain't even fucking close. Man, I wanted to see Shakur Schofield. Yeah, that would have been a good fight. But then Schofield still hadn't done anything, hasn't been a champion, could go on to become a champion afterwards. But otherwise, you know what? BFTB had Wilder at number 1. Those dudes are fucking mental. The same dudes that are now dick riding fucking Devin Haney like crazy, right? Videos every day. Devin Haney's the best. Hall of Famer, superstar, pound for pound number 1. But this is the man. Kenshiro Taraji, 24-1, 15 KOs, stopped once in his career, came back, redeemed himself. He is the most underrated fighter in boxing today, without a fucking doubt. Because even hardcore fans aren't really putting him on their pound for pound list. A few fighters boxing fans that are really hardcore into Japanese and Asian boxing, like myself and others, we rate him. But outside of that, you don't have really the boxing media giving him any attention. And it's not as if boxing media hasn't given people like him attention before, right? We see them give Junto attention. We've seen them, of course, give Ioka attention. Ioka was always just borderline pound for pound. Obviously, Inui broke through and has moved right up. Prior to that, you had other fighters like Roman Gonzalez and other fighters that were obscure, not fighting in America, but still getting on pound for pound lists. Go back in the day, you have fucking guys like, who is it? The bantamweight fighter. Yamanach, the guy Luis Neri knocked out, Yamanaka, who was pound for pound. You also had the other guy who was a 130-pound champion, who I think was borderline pound for pound as well. So you consistently have always had Asian fighters on that list, borderline, that America didn't know, but hardcore media did know. Ring Magazine did know. Fucking Dougie Fisher did know. But for some reason, Kenshiro just isn't getting that attention. Who knows why? Because when we look at what he's done sensational. He beat Ganigan Lopez early on as a guy with 4, 5 fights. I can't remember specifically. Let's go to BoxRec. Where's BoxRec? What's this? @Sager. That's YouTube. Where am I? I think Gonzalez beat Taraji. Some people feel that way. That's true. But at the end of the day, some close decisions go your way, some don't. Like when you think about Ioka. Ioka's losses, all of them easily could have been victories for him. He easily could have been undisputed. But unfortunately, that's the name of the game. Close fights, because they're close, potentially can go against you. Example, Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. They only dick ride Haney because he's black, racist. He wasn't black. He wouldn't have all these fans thanks to Hustler Daddy. That's why he gets booed every time. That's a fact. If Devin Haney wasn't black, he would not be on anyone's pound for pound list. He wouldn't be getting fucking any of the attention he gets. The LDBC definitely would not be dick riding him. And unfortunately for the LDBC, they really jumped on the wrong horse. They should have really continued to ride fucking Tank Davis. When they switched from Wilder to Spence to Haney, they went against fucking really what their platform was. Exciting, hard-punching, knockout artists who you could really sell. Then you go to Devin Haney, who they thought was going to be the next Floyd Mayweather. But unfortunately, that ain't ever going to fucking happen. The last guy Nakatani KO'd was David Cuellar. Yep. But wasn't a world champion, so he's not on my list. Then, of course, Melando, Pedro Guevara. These guys were all older at this point of their career. This is very similar to Bam Rodriguez fighting older name fighters. It's very similar to most fighters that are young. You fight, win a world champion, beat the guy who beat the guy to win the world champion, beat ex world champions to get your experience under you. And then you step up and you face more dangerous opponents. Guys like Ibuki, guys like Anthony Oleskagu, who currently is a world champion. Ibuki, currently a world champion, right? Kayaguchi, potentially after this week, might be a world champion again if he beats Oleskagu. And I think he potentially could. It'll be a real great fight. Both of these kids are really in their prime because you lost to Kenshiro. That doesn't dismiss you as garbage, right? You know, we've seen other Kenshiro fighters like Ibuki come back and become champions since then. Oleskagu come back and become champions again. So I would not be surprised to see Kayaguchi beat Oleskagu to become a champion for the second time and then potentially rematch Kenshiro again. Then you got Heki Butler. Obviously, Butler has had one of the best careers for these smaller weight fighters. Rosales, Roman Gonzalez's cousin, and then, of course, Carlos Canzanales. Very exciting hard puncher. Been a little up and down in his career, right? People had huge expectations. He kind of dropped the ball in some performances. But then, of course, against Kenshiro, he looked good, far better than he had previously. And you could easily see him go on to become a world champion again and obviously really make a name for himself. Did you watch the Thurman fight? I did because it was free on YouTube. LDBC got no brothers left. They only had Bud, who they hate on. That's the irony, right? That's the irony. You know, you hate on the guy who's probably the most accomplished fighter and the guy you probably should have fucking tied yourself together really from day one. Wow. Sal Pat was 76-1 when Nakatani fought him. I will watch it tonight probably. Yeah, it's easy to watch on YouTube, free, no chance to miss it. And then, of course, this week, tomorrow, you have obviously Kayaguchi and Oleskagu fighting on the undercard, and then Kenshiro fighting Akui. Two champions fighting each other in what? Let me hear it. Unification, right? Like literally, we ask everyone to face each other in unification. We want champions to fight champions. We want unification fights. I want Junto to face the other three champions in and around his weight division. That's it, right? It's not too much to ask to fucking do something that we expect great fighters to do. I want Tank Davis to fight other champions in his division. That's it. Simple. I want, all the great fighters to unify against each other. But we're going to act like it shouldn't happen. Let's look at Junto Nakatani. Right now you have, obviously, Nishidi, who I feel potentially could be his unification fight. 10-0, 28 years old. Anui obviously lost to Tatsumi, who is 12-0-3, just came off a draw on the undercard of Junto's card. Didn't look great in that fight. And then, of course, Takai, who's 10-0 and 28 years old. So literally you have three other world champions. You know when Junto beats them, what people are going to say. Oh, this guy's 10-0. Oh, this guy's 12-0-3. Oh, this guy's 10-0. They're fucking world champions. It's not his fault that they don't have 40 fucking fights under their resume. When he fought the Thai guy with 76-1 resume, they shit on that fight because that guy had fought all bums for those 76 fights. Yeah, that's what happens. When you have that many fights on your resume, chances are you fought a lot of low-level, bum-ass fucking opponents, right? Then we look, of course, at Shakur Stevenson, right? He's in a division where everybody wants the top guys to face each other. You got Tank Davis, Shakur, Lomachenko, Zepeda, Muratalla, and fucking Keyshawn Davis. You know, 4 world champions, 2 top contenders. There's no reason these guys shouldn't be facing each other, right? Only Lomachenko is old and past his best. Outside, Tank is 30, Shakur 27, Loma 37, Zepeda 28, Muratalla 28, Keyshawn Davis, 26. Even him at 26, he's literally only 1 year younger than Shakur and Junto Nakatani. Then Abdullah Mason's coming up hard. Obviously he's still young. You don't need to rush him. He's only 20 years old, right? Obviously Schofield, 22, also is super young. Frank Martin moved out of the division, but you got Herrera, the Cuban fighter, 22 years old. So you got some really good, exciting, up-and-coming young fighters on this quest. Then old-ass Andy Cruz, 29, right? So the division is hot. You got a lot of great fighters. All people want to see is these great fighters face each other. Obviously, Giovanni Cabrera, 22-2, 7 KOs, stopped once in his career, 30 years old. He's going to be facing, he obviously just got stopped by Zepeda, lost to Isaac Cruz in a fight. Most people feel he won. He's going to be fighting Abdullah Mason. That shit's dynamite. That is a great matchup. Abdullah Mason versus fucking Cabrera. Man, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. They still have plenty of black champions they could support. They're just hung up on defending Haney. The problem is, what black champions look like they are pound for pound superstar status? Outside of Crawford, Haney, Shakur, and Tank, who is the next great fighter? Boots Ennis, potentially, but the problem is Boots hasn't done anything yet still, right? What's he, 28 years old now? And still he hasn't done anything. He's going to fight Stanionis, which is a career-defining fight for him, a unification fight, right? Thank God. A unification fight, just what we've been asking for. Zepeda pulled a fast one with Shakur fight. Yes, he did. Bum-ass opponents are moaning and groaning. True. The truth is, I mean, as a boxing fan, all we want to see is great boxers fight. I think Zepeda ducking Shakur is fucking garbage. But hopefully we're going to get to see that fight after Zepeda fights Farmer in the rematch. Farmer deserves the rematch because that fight was super competitive, and some people feel Farmer deserved to win. For Shakur, the question is, what's he going to do next? I know what I would like to see him do next. I would like to see him face the winner of Lamont Roach, Tank Davis. But is he going to wait around and not do anything in the meantime? Of course not. So the question is, who can he fight in the meantime? Let's look at those rankings. Boxing scene. We can add these and see what potential opponents we could potentially see Shakur face. So scroll through, scroll up. I mean, even John Ennis, fucking Lewis Crocker is fucking number 1. Patty Donovan is number 3. Like, fucking Christ, man. The IBF rankings are fucking horrendous. Horrendous, man. Like, nobody wants to see John Ennis fight one of these two UK fucking fighters, especially Crocker, who was gifted a victory over Patty Donovan. My God, he looked terrible. Who would want to see John Boots Ennis defend his title against that fucking garbage fighter? Nobody. Then, of course, we get to this weight, and where's Shakur? Shakur currently has William Zepeda as the interim. So that fight looks like it has to happen in 2025, and that would be fantastic. If Shakur beats William Zepeda, it's a great name. Not a champion, but a great name. A top contender at 135 pounds. Then you got Andy Cruz at number 1. Obviously, Farmer is number 2. If he beats Zepeda, he's going to be put into that interim position. Ricardo Nunez, no one cares. Sam Noakes, nobody cares. Frank Martin, no longer in the division. Joe Cordina, nobody cares. Abdullah Mason, a little too early. So really, you have 2 fighters, potentially Andy Cruz or the winner of Zepeda and Farmer. For Keyshawn, Muratalla is right there. That's a fucking great fight. Great fight. Top Rank will be really excited. They'll make that fight. It's a quality fight. The only problem is that Muratalla is in position to potentially win that Lomachenko title. They would prefer if he was to beat Zaur Abdurev to become the IBF champion, and then you could have Keyshawn and Raymond Muratalla fight for unification, which obviously would be more significant, and it's a unification fight. I mean, what have we been talking about all day? Unification. Shakur should catch Abdullah whilst he's still green. That fight won't ever be competitive in a few years. Well, luckily for Shakur, Abdullah Mason probably won't get through 2026 at 135 pounds. He'll probably get through this year, and early 2026, he'll probably move to 140 pounds. And then him and Keyshawn will move out of that division. And what will you have left? Really, Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson, right? And what other potential young fighters at that division that I mentioned earlier? Obviously, the old Cuban will still be there, but he's fucking almost 30. So whatever. Herrera, maybe Herrera will still be around, the Cuban fighter, but he's Cuban, so he's never really going to be a big fucking sell anyway. Yeah, after that, you're going to have the new crop of fighters, potentially guys moving up from 130, maybe guys like fucking Oshaki Foster and some other dudes, right, that feel there's money opportunities to move to that division. Yeah, I don't think he needs to worry about Abdullah Mason. I don't think Abdullah Mason is really probably even going to fight for a championship at this weight class, but we will see. Maybe Bob Arum would love the opportunity for Abdullah Mason to knock fucking Shakur off the perch and put another top-ranked fighter on that pound-for-pound list and as a champion at 135. Could you imagine? They end up getting WBC Abdullah Mason, IBF Muratalla, WBC Keyshawn Davis. And what about Tank Davis, Schofield, Andy Cruz? I mean, I think Schofield would be a fun fight for Tank Davis, but similarly to Keyshawn, the kid's young, right? He's young. At this point, you would expect Tank Davis to beat him and him to be better for the fight, learning through the fight. Only 22 years old, right? But thanks everyone for jumping in. I'm going to eat my dinner and then walk the dog. I have to go do some fucking work, but it's raining, so I'm hesitant to leave my house. But got to do what you got to do. 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 It's due tomorrow, so got to get on it. But thanks for jumping in, everyone. Let me know how you feel in the comments section. We'll be talking more about boxing. Obviously, we got the card from Japan on ESPN tomorrow. Maybe I'll go live for that. It depends on how fast I can get my ass home from work and what fight's actually going on, if I can find a good feed. But stay tuned to that. I will see you guys later. Have a good week. Peace out.